cloud. So this evening we're joined with Kevin, KD9TMY, who's prepared an evening for us, and is very much appreciated. Kevin's a regular, and it's good to actually have a presentation from him this evening. So I'll pass on to making you spotlight.
All right.
And make sure that you've got sharing capabilities as well. So bear with me, and I'll over to you, Kevin. You should be able to share your screen now. And thanks very much for a wonderful evening we're about to have.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'll just give you a little background first. I've only been in ham radio a little over a year, and strangely got into it. I don't have any family members that were ham radio operators, no background in it at all. Just last year got a notion. I've got some friends that are into ham radios, but never really conversed with them about it. But I finally just said, no, this is the time I'm going to do it. So starting from scratch, you know, you ask a few questions, you go to the internet a lot, you look at Facebook pages, you know, what kind of radio do I want to start with? Then you move on to the antenna, and you pick an antenna, and oh, this looks cool. Well, it doesn't fit in my backyard. So you're off to the races again. But, you know, everywhere I went, you know, looking for opinions on radios or antennas and everything, you know, in between. One thing always came out in most conversations there was the best thing you could do if you're new to ham radio is join a club. Join a local club or even an online club like we are here. Just a wealth of knowledge, veteran ham radio guys, plenty to learn from, show you the do's and the don'ts. You might even save a little money along the line. But you create friendships, and it turns into family really quick. And so I joined the local club here. It's the Mississippi Valley Amateur Radio Association. And, you know, they started out years ago with a few members, and they've grown. We're up to around, I think, 45 current members. And, you know, up before we had this bus, you know, they did the same thing a lot of other clubs did. You do your field days, monthly meetings, get-togethers, you go to ham conventions together and such. But this club in general had this vision years ago, and literally had it drawings that they would like to have a bus. This would be really unique. This would be cool, maybe something different that you don't find too often. So it kind of went from there. So in 2020, this became a reality for these guys. So I'll start my presentation here. All right, is that showing up?
No, not yet.
Okay. Let me try this.
There you go. There you go. That's it. Yep, we've got it.
Oh, I gotta get this out of here. God darn it. There we go. How's that?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay. That's as full screen as I can make it. Got to have a little fireworks there. So here it is. This is the bus when the club took over. And this is actually a picture of its second life. This bus was created for a mobile clinic application. And after time that they were done with it, it became a mobile 911 dispatch center. And when they were done, which we think was cost, it was very cost effective at the time. It required a lot of cabling and hubs. It was back before an era that there was no voice override. And at that point, they gave up and the club was able to take over. So the dream came true. So now we go into, we got to modify it that works for us best. Little messy, but what's a project without a mess? And if you guys have any questions on the slides or need me to back up, feel free. And any little detail you want to look at, go ahead. But went through, put, new coax in, everything we needed for ours, take out what they had, and make it work for us.
So, Kevin, can I just ask, from that slide there, the image there, is that how you received it, or had you already put those cupboards in?
The cupboards on the right were mostly there. The countertop on the left had to be changed to our needs.
Right. Okay.
Allow
Gotcha.
for stations along that side. And we are looking towards the back of the bus. There is a small room at the back through the doorway, and just in between on the left is the rear exit door.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. That looks awesome.
We got a little refrigerator in there up above. Doors are open. There's a microwave in there, and we're always looking for more storage. You can never have enough storage. Even the other weekend, we were working on the bus where you see the shop towels and the spray. Mm-hmm. We put in a countertop along there. We're going to make another station, might just be for dual band.
Right, gotcha.
But our there'll be a main station in the back that you can close the door, and then there's two on the left-hand side. In the next slides, there'll be a little bit better pictures. So,
that looks great.
So now we're looking towards the driver's end of the bus, and there is a small seat on the left and the right for passengers. So as it's traveling, you really only have 3 people on the bus. And then after that starts, we have, like, I guess you could call a little greeting room, reference room. We've got a board that was put up to put, QSL cards on. On the right, we've got a magic marker board for visitors that they can put their call sign on, and just kind of a hangout. We got just some, roller chairs in there, just a place to sit around and talk. We do have a Yaesu radio behind the driver with an KD9TMY, I believe, to one of our new Scorpion antennas, and I'll have that in another slide. So here's just stepping back a little bit farther from behind the driver's seat, and you can get a kind of an idea of how it goes through the bus. So got your seating area, you got the 2 station chairs and 1 station in the back. Got room for hanging plaques and things like that, or anything educational we try to get up on the board. Let's see here. Here is a little wiring project going on. Having to pull some new coax and dig in and find out what's behind the door there. Now here we go, where we get a little bit, things are more organized. What some of the original stations look like when we started. The new countertop is here on the left, so we'll have that station there. Got everything else kind of going together pretty good. Now this is where the fun starts. The funnest thing about the bus is getting new radios put in. Previously, the radios that were in the bus actually belonged to club members. So this is where I get to thank a grant company called the ARDC, if any of you are familiar with them, the Amateur Radio Digital Communication. We received a pretty nice grant from them to be able to put new radios in the bus, microphones, switches, We've got a covered trailer for storage and making another station in there, along with two tower trailers. So, and everything in between. But this is a day where we project putting in new radios, and I think anytime you get a new radio, that is the funnest thing about ham. So it was a good day.
And how many, Kevin, how many rigs have you got in the bus? How many does it hold? Two?
We
Three?
have one full station in the back,
Right.
two full stations here, one being kind of in the lower left and another one just above it.
Right.
We'll have a small station kind of over to the right corner there that we're developing right now.
Right.
And then a real small station up behind the driver there. But we've got other radios on board, some dual band. We do have a fourth main radio that we'll be putting in the trailer possibly. It's kind of a backup right now. We did 4 new radios the same. The stations are set up the same on purpose. We wanted redundancy. You know, I guess when you looked at emergency communications in general, you wanted to easily jump into it, not have to say, oh, which radio am I going to be working today? Everybody, you know, that wants to get on, you know, in the club, work the bus, it'll be the same radio. So it makes it very handy for a lot of different radios, but for a lot of different applications. So this is what a typical station looks like. This is one towards the back of the bus. So I know you're into ICOM, but we got some Jesus in there. And we did a comparison.
So you got the 101 through a grant? The 101D? Wow.
We picked up 4 of them, yeah.
My goodness.
We looked at both. We did, because, you know, I've got ICOM, other guys have ICOM, a lot of guys have both. We compared the 101D to the ICOM 7610.
7610, yeah.
And they are really close. You know, for an average ham, I'd have a hard time picking out which one to take. You know, I probably would have went ICOM because I've got my 7300, and I love the 7300 because it's got the waterfall, nice big waterfall. So, but as far as what the club looked at it, was one reason. Yes, we do have a Yaesu rep in the area. That always helps.
Okay, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 is we spent some time watching. Familiar with a fellow Bob Sherwood? He's done some online YouTube videos, and he did a video between the two, the ICOM 7610 and the 101D. And, you know, being a known, you know, review person, he really come out and said the Yaesu really kind of was the top notch of it. So away we went. And we made sure we got 4 of them all the same. And of course, if Bob Heil was on, he'd appreciate the headsets and, you know, the nice microphones and booms. So, and if you're really into ICOM, you're not going to like this next picture, so you might want to close your eyes. So this is the setup for all 4 radios. You know, you can use a headset. Some guys just like to use the microphone only and an open speaker. We're running a watt meter on each one, and the Surefire band passers just to help out with some filtering. So that's the stronghold of our 4 stations. The others, you know, we got some smaller radios and some unique applications for them. So, but anytime we've got the bus set up somewhere and people are coming through, we've got one of these 3 radios going for them, and it's part of showing that the ham radio is still very popular. It's growing. It's digital. It's up to date. lot of people that come through, they're really almost shocked. Like, wow, I had no idea ham radio was in this direction. And it really helps bring new members, young members, members that have probably been off the air for 20 years that they just look at it and go, wow, maybe I should just get back into this. And that's what it's all about. That is what our bus is about, is out in the public. It's not to be put in storage and say, oh, we just bring it out just for our personal field day. A majority of the time that you see our bus, it's in the public. We love people to walk through it and take a look, make some calls, do what they can with it. It's there for them. Here's Tom, that's one of the veteran members, founding member of the club. He's set up and making some calls out there. So got a fair amount of guys I believe are CW. I'm far from it. Eventually I might catch on to it. Right now I'm learning the ropes with FT8, FT4, and PSK31, kind of in that order. So this is what it kind of looks like when you see somebody on the bus. And then we have, we've got some antenna rotators sitting on the counter also. Here's another one of our founding members, Craig. Judging by the look on his face, he's talking smack to somebody. So he's probably beating somebody up on the radio pretty good. Been at it a long time. Now this kind of explains what we typically use. We were at a Boy Scout camp in the area, and we had Boy Scouts coming through. Give them a whirl on the radio. It's a good start. They're pretty interested in it, especially with the digital. Boy, when they can go on the screen and type in stuff and bring up call signs, it's really neat. And that's what the bus is all about. Just getting the public in there and doing a lot of show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
This was my first time getting to use the radios this spring. We were set up in a parking lot here in town for our fundraiser end. And the caption wasn't typed in. We actually have a webcam in there, and we were doing a Facebook live stream that day, and it was filling in the captions. I didn't realize that until I downloaded the picture. The funny thing about this was, I was going through, and it's when you first jump behind that radio and you look at it, after you've gotten over, oh, this is cool, it's a little intimidating. There's a lot of switches and a lot of moving around, and you're like, well, okay, do I want to jump in here and make a call out there? Well, maybe I'll just answer somebody first. And I said, oh, I got this guy, he's from overseas. Punched him up, come up as Japan. I could not understand a word he was saying. And I sat there listening, and tried to communicate a little bit. Finally, the word sayonara came up, and I said, okay, 73, we're done. On we went. So, but yeah, it's one of those things, you just got to spend some time with it and get comfortable with it, figure out what works for you. So it was a fun day. So here we're getting up to setup time. This is kind of what the bus looks like when it's time to set up. Got the doors open, storage, getting ready for the day. In the back, we store all our coax cables and such. We got ground rods tucked in there. We've got some extension poles to put up for the antennas. This tower that you see on top is a combination slide and tilt. It was on the bus, before we took over, but it's pinned down for travel. You pull the pins, there's a little chain latch on it. It actually slides back, and then there's a pivot point, and then it raises up. The bottom does not sit on the ground. It hovers off the back of the bumper about a foot, so it doesn't come in contact, but that's where we'll hang a dipole from, and then a dual band antenna. And then we use trailers. The antenna that you see in back is actually sitting on a trailer in the part of the park there. So but that's what it kind of looks like when we start. This is the front of her that she looks. We always hang our flag up there, proud of that. We've got a little, I believe it's a Davies weather station that we'll set up, and we can monitor the weather from there. So that's what the front kind of looks like, pretty plain. Here's what the back looks like. We've got a POTA flag. We were set up along one of the bike trails here. It's considered state park. And this was just before we put up a scorpion antenna. Now, this is new for us. I haven't had a chance to use it. We're still learning with it. This is not the travel position for it. We actually have a channeled slide bar in there. That scorpion will usually mount right off the bumper for traveling, but we've got it up, extended up there, give a little bit more clearance, give a little bit more free air. So it's still an experimentation. Grounding is going to be the biggest thing that we'll get addressed on there. With a bus, you know, you've got rubber mounts underneath there, and trying to make a good ground, that's real keen. And this is what it takes. Biggest thing I can stress with a project like this is it is not a one-man band. It takes a few guys to set up. Takes a little work. Not, you know, real time consuming, but if we get a few guys going, we can get set up, you know, easily under an hour. Teardown goes a little quicker for some reason, but that's kind of what you see. This is where we were setting up at the Boy Scout camp down the road here. So getting ready for some demonstration. This is a little box in back where everything kind of comes up from. We've got things tagged there as what station it is, where the cable's got to go. Got rotor controls available and some antenna switching. Pretty basic. We got a ground terminal on the side. We try to get a ground rod as far in the ground as we can, and still be able to pull it back out. This is we're setting up for National Field Day. Is that, Andy, what you call it on your side also? You have a National Field Day?
Nope.
Okay.
We don't have them. As an informal thing, a club will have field days. Yeah.
Okay.
They will have field days, but it's not like a not on the scale that you guys have.
Okay. So this is a trailer that we borrow at the time being till our trailers get here. It's a nice crank up trailer. The Yagi on top belongs to one of our members. So, but we set that up in the field below us. Here's the other side. We've got a club currently has a small red trailer in front with a Yagi, and then we've got a dipole strung from there. That trailer's in the far background. So getting a little closer set up. Fortunate the trees were in the right places. They made some good tie downs. Here's a little typical setup, doing a POTA along the bike trail again. We had a lot of people just kind of drive by, kind of wonder what's going on here. And the club took it with some members down to Dayton Hamvention this year. They had a very, very good turnout. A lot of people were really amazed at the bus. Had quite a few people go through. It was a neat thing. It was almost a feather in the cap going down there and being able to show everything that we've got going. This is just some of the call signs we got coming through at Dayton, and filled up the board. Most of them were readable, and what we did, afterwards is we created some QSL cards with some members that went down to Hamvention, and then we're mailing those out to all the call signs on there, and at least as if they were readable anyways. This is part of the fun part of kicking back into field days, is just sitting around having a good time, catch up with everybody, whether it's related to ham radio or not. One member in that one pop-up did bring a go-to box, and weather that weekend, it was a little warm. One day it was pretty windy, and then that was the evening that 20 meter went out for quite a bit. Really kind of put a hamper on making contacts that evening. And 20 meter that night seemed to go out for a lot of people, so it wasn't just a location scenario. There is a little picture in the background of the trailer that we were able to pick up for storage, and that was what we'll probably put our fourth station in. There's another setup we did locally in the hometown on Alaska here, just down the street from my house. There again, the Community Days was a public event. They had anything from food trucks. We were there. We had a fella next to us from the Department of Motor Vehicles that had a roll cage on axles, and he had a couple dummies set in there, and they spin it around really fast to demonstrate seatbelt safety. You watch the dummies fly out, the faster it went. So it was kind of an interesting day. They had inflatables for kids. It's just a city event, and it's a great place for us to set up and get the radios fired up and let people walk through again. Latest one we did is we took a little trip up north, halfway to Canada, to Chippewa Falls, had a ham fest, and we've got a good relationship with this club up here, and we thought it'd be a nice to bring the bus up and let them go through it and show what the latest and greatest, what we're still doing with the bus. And this was part of the grant also, was continuing. It wasn't just to take the funds, use them up, and be done, walk away. It was a continuing commitment to say we're going to still, even if we are at someday done working on the bus, we'll still be going forward and be out there in the public eye. Person in the chair right there is Bill. He's another one of the founding members of the club, and he's getting ready for a night shift. So it's just pretty neat to work the bus 24/7. So just a little snapshot of him later into the evening. And here it is sometime in the middle of the night, and they're still running. Not sure if everybody's awake or not, but the radios are on. We've got a little pamphlet, kind of some of the highlights of what is on the bus. And I can always post these maybe later if somebody wants to read up on them and look at any details, come up with any ideas. That's the whole reason.
That'll be great. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, they're just for ideas. I thought, we'll go through the slides and see what kind of questions arrive and such. Got another page there with some of the highlighted things that we've done. Some of them maybe before we had the bus, and some of them with some things that we've participated locally. Got a little layout of the bus inside, and go from there. And a little picture on the left there of what our towers will look like when they get here. They're almost done. So it's a little pamphlet that we've got made up. And that's getting towards the end. Like I said, the highlight of having the bus is really for the public. Obviously it's the communications and at this point, you hope we don't have to use it for emergency occasions. It's hard to think of it as we're in a position where we're the actual last line of communication with what's going on everywhere. But secondly, it's just really for the public, and then the club gets to use it on top of it. So if you've got any questions, throw them at me. I'll answer them the best I can. Other than that, we thank you from the club for giving us a chance here today to show you what it's all about.
No, thank you very much for sharing it with us. I've got a question. I'm curious. Just jump in before Jonathan. How many club members have you actually got? Because that's quite an extensive setup that you've got there.
We currently have 45 club members.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean, you think, 45 guys. You always got to take apart that it does take a fair amount of people to get it going, but, especially in the summer months, families got a lot of stuff going on also. So it's pretty rare that you get 45 guys on the scene to get the bus up and going. So, a couple, times that you might get a fair amount or majority of the members might be at national field days because, they might be bringing their own radios and setting up a pop-up canopy or something along the lines. But, as far as travel goes, with it, you can only seat three, it only takes three, and then the rest have to kind of caravan behind. So, but it does take some guys to do it. We were fortunate that we were able to pick this bus up, but there are things that go with it that you don't think of. It's like we're fortunate that it wasn't an empty bus. We didn't have to start from scratch with a layout. We did have cabinetry in there. We had something to work with. But things that go along with a bus, maintenance, fuel, insurance, just day-to-day stuff with it. You don't always think about, things come up, putting new pieces in, which is nice. And as you use things break. You got to replace some things. Things get used, especially when you've got a lot of people going through, a little knob will fall off or break off or the cleaning, a lot of cleaning. You've always got to try to have the best appearance, even something simple like washing windows. A couple of things, the bus, I didn't have a slide for. We do have an onboard generator. The bus is fueled by diesel, and the generator does run off the main diesel tank. So we can run approximately, I think at 220, we're running around 45 some amps, off the generator that are available because it takes a little power to light everything up in there, plus some air conditioning. That's an advantage of the bus also. We got air conditioning, we've got heat. We'll set up when it's cold out. It is not meant to be a fair weather bus. The guys have set this up when it's been really cold. Setup seems to go pretty good. Oh, this wasn't so bad. It's cold. Well, when it's 10 below or 5 above or anywhere in between, what coaxes like to roll up and put away after it's been set up in the cold for 24 hours? It's a real treat. So our other power option, if there's a 50 amp breaker available, what we can plug in there too. Project down the line might be looking at solar panels, for alternate power. So something we may look into down the line. I think with a bus, there'll always be something, whether it's a technology change or just something personal. We feel, well, it's either outdated or we found something that works better. So it's something that if you guys got questions, throw them at me. Get them answered the best we can. Or if you got ideas you want to bring up, throw them out there. See what happens.
So I've got a question, if I may. Jonathan M0VRI. Bearing in mind what you were saying, about you hope that you don't end up being a kind of communications of last resort. Have you considered actually keeping the electronic equipment in like a Faraday cage? So if some horrible event occurs, at least you've got some protection from an electromagnetic pulse.
I don't know as if we're that far into it or not.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a tin box, right?
Yeah, we've only had, I think we picked this up in 2020, so we're just into our second year with it. And our focus right now, as far as emergency communications, we do have members that are Aries races familiar with. They're versed in that. Our stage right now is we're working with, I want to say here, trying to get in touch with local authorities. I think at this point, they know we're there. We're just trying to figure out this good merge to, what do I want to say, to make sure that they call us when needed, that we're not forgot about. And we want to make ourselves look like we're the real deal. We didn't want to just throw it, say, yeah, we've got a bus, we can do emergency communications. We said, no, we're versed, we can handle this. And if we were to get an emergency situation, Jonathan, we would probably go in there with the idea that approach somebody and say, how can we help? We aren't going to be there to run a show. We're just going to offer our help.
No, I get that. I mean, it just occurred to me that, I sometimes think to myself, and like my grandchildren will say, so what's so great about this amateur radio? Well, and I'll explain that you can talk to people all over the world. You can use the digital modes and your computer can do it and everything. And at the end of the day, if something terrible happens and the internet isn't accessible anymore, so there's no phones, there's no television, there's no WhatsApp, there's none of that, but amateur radio will still be working. And I was thinking, just in the context of you saying that, it is maybe something that might happen one day, maybe a good precautions to kind of protect the electronics from an EMP. So just a thought. I'm interested to know what sort of insurance you need to drive that thing, because it looks like a lorry.
Insurance actually isn't too bad. Considering its application, it's actually a lot less or minimal than what you would expect. Probably cheaper than insuring a covered trailer.
Oh, okay.
So
it's 35 feet long. I mean, that's a big animal, right?
Yeah. You don't quite fall into that RV category, and you don't fall into a passenger bus either. So there was a little bit, probably trying to find the right insurance person to say, this is exactly what we're using it for. Mm-hmm. They probably look at travel time versus, probably the biggest insurance thing is all the equipment inside.
Yeah, sure.
You start adding up all the radios and antennas and all that stuff. It's probably far more expensive than what the bus is to ever replace it.
Yeah. Can I have one more? You were talking about
sure.
The difficulty of getting an earth spike into the ground and getting it out again. I mean, it strikes me a big old beast like that, you could probably have a hydraulic ram on the bottom that could kind of drive something into the ground and then pull it up just before you go, right?
Yeah,
where you're on grass, of course, not where you're on the road.
In midsummer here, it gets tough because the ground gets so dry and hard, and you're talking about almost a 1/2-inch diameter copper rod. You're out there with a hammer, going away. And it's something temporary, too. It's not like we're going to be, for field days, it's probably the longest that it's set up, a 24-hour span. A lot of times when we're going, we're off the edge of a parking lot, there's a thing there that no matter where you set up, you know, when you get into some of these spaces, you got to almost look and going, what is in the ground right next to it? You know, you're just looking around going, well, it doesn't look like there's anything buried here. You know, it's a little precaution you got to take once in a while. So, but you know, we've never really had a major issue with grounding, getting the rod, you know, a couple feet in there or something. It's to provide some to get, you know, help with noise or whatever. It
Yeah,
seems
sure.
to work really well. I think what helps is there is enough metal on the bus itself. You know, it kind of helps disperse. You know, at one point, maybe helping ground, you'll start taking straps and going from the frame out a little farther, getting around some of the rubber mounts and things like that. And there again, it is somewhat newer. You know, we've only had it for a couple of years, and you kind of go with projects that you need to have going right now. You know, it's like it'll always be time for more. Like I said, the other previous weekend, we put another countertop in. We also prepped for putting a trailer hitch on the bus so we can haul the trailer from the bus rather than have a member bring their full-size truck to pull that, you know, and carry that thing along. But yeah, you know, coming up with something better for ground down the line, it really, to my knowledge, hasn't affected radio usage at all. You know, we've never said, oh, something's going on because we don't have enough ground. So it's been pretty good that way.
Sure.
But yeah, like you say, another step would be for EMP, you know, if you really want to get into it. It's good that you brought it up because it's something I can write down and say, hey, you know, it's something to look at down the line. But the list of projects, you know, that are 5 pages long. But
So
yeah.
in the UK on construction sites, they use these big metal vaults. It's called a tall vault.
Okay.
And it's a steel thing made of plate steel about this thick, you know, with a gas strut to help you lift the door. And these things are designed for leaving tools in on construction sites. They're very, very secure.
Sure.
And maybe you could stick one of those in there somewhere, you know, and then kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yep.
Help secure the equipment in both ways. But thank you for answering my questions. I'll let someone else have a go now.
Yeah, no problem.
I've got a question, Kevin.
Sure.
And I'm sure you already know what it is. What antenna was on that tower?
They are tri-band Yagis.
Yeah.
So
what model?
They might be a couple different models. They're club members. I know the bands are 10, 15, and 20. And then we use dipoles for 40 on down. I'm not sure if Tom's available at all. Tom, you got a second by chance?
They are Cushcraft. Well, one of them, I don't know which, I wasn't able to see which, but we use a Cushcraft AB34, I think it is. It's a 4 element. 1 element is just for 10 meters.
Yeah.
And the other one that probably was on one of the towers was a TA33 Junior by Mosley.
Lovely.
Like I say, club member antennas. We've got 2 more AB34s that we got given to us that we have to rebuild, but we're always looking for a better mousetrap.
Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
We have entertained, and we thought we had a line on one for a very good price as a 4 element stepper, but they just take, we can put the antenna we have together, 3 people, probably 10 minutes. And that's what's nice about it. It's all color coded.
Yeah, a stepper is going to take you at least a couple of hours to put together.
Yeah, well, there are ways to make it go quick, but it will take a lot longer.
Yeah, they're a nice aerial stepper, very useful.
the nice thing is we have a 20-foot long trailer, so we don't have to take everything apart to store it.
Yeah. All understood. Thank you.
What about maintenance costs? Like I've seen that Tom has put about the tyres being expensive. So what about ongoing maintenance costs? How do you cover those kind of ongoing costs for the bus as a club?
Sure. We have, obviously you got some club membership. We do a raffle in the spring of the year, late spring, and that is a good fundraiser for us that we can cover, maintenance cost of the bus. That is one nice thing about, having a good sized number of members is we have a wealth of knowledge, not just in ham radio, but in other areas, that are mechanical, electrical, things along that nature. That's what really helps the bus, is having a variety of members with a club that can do different things other than just put in and hook up a radio.
Yeah.
That really helps. We spent a little money. We did put some new tires, on the bus. It needed it. We put some round ones on instead of the rectangle ones that it came with. That's one of the more costly things, but you're going to have, similar things happen. But, they're, for majority of it, there's somebody in the club that's got some good knowledge of it or can lead us in the right direction. I'll give you a pretty good scenario is if the bus was to break down, Craig, one of the members in the club, well, his family business is tow truck business. Who do you think we're going to call? So we've got, maintenance, outside of oil changes. This year we do have some indoor storage available, and that can contribute to keeping your maintenance down. It's not going to sit outside in the snowbank, be exposed to the elements. Obviously, you guys know cold weather can affect a brand new vehicle just like an older vehicle. There's always things that go wrong with that. But yeah, it's a little older bus, and it's showing its wear and tear, but it's holding together. It's doing what we need to do. Like mentioned earlier, it's in its third life. You just never know. It's kind of like, what is it, 101 uses to the Briggs and Stratton engines. They have those over there. So off the top of my head, Andy, I don't know what a total maintenance cost is per year. We've made a couple trips to Eau Claire or Chippewa Falls area with it. The first big test drive was clear down to Dayton, Ohio. That's darn near a full day's drive, and with a bus, because you're only topping out at, you definitely aren't doing the state speed limit with it. and just to get a different question that wasn't answered was, when you saw the radio set up there, they stay there while in the bus all the time, in their place. We don't have to do a tear down inside the bus when we set up and leave. We've used Velcro, with double tack Velcro, and those radios, if you're familiar with the 101Ds, or even if you had a 76N, there's some weight to them. They're like parking a bowling ball on that countertop. So everything there, the radio, the speaker, the band pass, or the watt meter, they stick together as a package 24/7. That's their permanent spot, whether we're using the bus or not, or it's rolling down the road, or if it's parked. That's where they're going to be. So that's part of being, I guess, the emergency prepared is, let's say that we've got this, we have a covered storage for it. Let's say they call us in 2 hours from now. That bus would have to be ready to go. It'd be pretty tough to say, well, we're going to need 5 or 6 hours because we got to put all the radios together and we got to put cabling and all that. I mean, in a pinch, you get 4 more guys, we could probably literally set up under a half hour, top to bottom, and do what we would need to do for them as far as communicate. So it probably the longest thing that takes to set up is getting that tower slid back, turned up, get everything raised up there. That's a little time consuming, but rolling out the antenna in an emergency outside of the trailers, I'd say trailers are something different. We looked at picking up a couple trailers, not just for what we have right now, but let's say down the line, the bus does get phased out, that there's something better. We will still have, whether we've got just covered trailers or not, we still have 2 tower trailers to put up antennas and get a good signal out. So there was, when the grant money did become available, these guys had their ducks in the row. They had a list together. They knew, hey, these are the things that we need to use. They weren't just kind of look at it. It was a needs list that they had and not a want list. So it worked out pretty well. The funding definitely helped out. It gave the members their own radios back, which was very generous to them because, what an ICOM 7300 cost, and then you put it in the bus for public to use it, and something happens to it. It's kind of it would be a bum deal. It's like, well, that's the consequences. So, when we got the funding, we knew right away that we need to have dedicated radios for use, that didn't belong to any one person. So if something happened to it, so be it. It's replaceable as far as the club concerned. It doesn't have, you hate to find out that, oh, that was my father's radio and they got sentimental value and the thing does slide off the counter, or we hit a pothole so big that, everything flew up in the air. So, yeah. And so with that Scorpion antenna, does anybody here have that? Have you used it fluently? Anybody familiar with it mobile-wise?
No.
Okay. All right. I know a lot of guys have the Tar Heel version of it.
What bands does it cover? Kevin?
That Scorpion, it's the model SA680, so it covers 6 through 80.
Right.
So
it's going to need...
It's a much better built antenna than the Tar Heel. I mean, it's like 100 times better. It's all stainless steel. And I mean, it can take the environment.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the only advantage guys have with a Tar Heel is the weight. The Scorpions, there's a little more weight to it, but there again, you get what you pay for in an antenna. So the weight means a lot. It tends to scroll up or down fairly fast. Pretty efficient antenna. I personally haven't had a chance to sit back and use it on the radio yet, really play with it. So I do know a little bit from it, though, is that considering our setup, where that Scorpion is at and having antennas right above it, if you don't have the filtering on or going, it can raise havoc with the other 4 radios. So I think because of proximity, but you get the filtering on and where it needs to be, and you get good clean ground. I think it's going to be a really good antenna out there, for doing some of those bands, even if you want to do it going down the road, so because it does stay attached to the bus, other than we use the extension when it's parked to just give it a little bit more clean air. So
So what? So
I've got
Kevin, with
a question.
oh, go on, Andy. I'll let you go first.
Okay, just 2 questions, and the first question is related to the second one. The first question is, what are the prizes in your raffle?
We did, it focused on what we call a meat raffle. We have a local, well-known, like a butcher's block. And we did, that was the main prize for our raffle. You know, dealing with a local business, 1. 2, what was unique about it, place is called Bubba's Meats here in La Crosse, that the prize was given from Bubba's as a gift card, just like a charge card. So the grant, it was $500 worth of meats or merchandise at Bubba's Meats. But when you went in there, Andy, you didn't have to spend it all at once. If you only wanted to get $20 out of that $500, that's what he used on that card. So some places give you just a gift certificate and it's like an all or none. He does like a charge card gift thing. It worked out really well. We raised a good chunk of money on that for the year. And another big aspect of it, and this is part of what it takes to make it work, is donations. You know, we do have other organizations that do recognize us and what we're doing, even though we haven't had to be called out for a national emergency. They believe in what we're doing and they offer donations. That helps also.
Okay, well, I was hoping it was going to be radio related, and if it was going to be, I was going to ask, where do I buy a ticket?
Yeah, I put in for it. We'll see where it goes next year. We threw it around, you know, and that's a good thing to bring up, Andy, is, you know, maybe we might have to throw a hand radio in there or something with it, you know, something to spur up a younger person. That's a good idea, Andy.
One of those 101s would be nice.
You know, we did cash this year as the alternate prizes down, you know, just but year to year we can change that. We've just been, the fella at Bubba Meats has really been good with us working with that fundraiser, and yeah, probably be there. But you bring up a great thing, is maybe, you know, rather than having some cash things, you know, something in a radio line would be really neat. Yeah.
And plus the fact is, you probably get sponsored by the big people like they do at Dayton. You probably get sponsorship from the actual manufacturers.
Yeah. Yeah, and right now, Andy, we're self-sustained outside the grant. You know, that's kind of a different fund for us. But outside of that, you know, beforehand and afterwards, we are self-sufficient. We aren't running by sponsorship. We don't get a monthly check from anybody. And, you know, you don't see a lot of manufacturers' radio stickers on the bus or thing. We're raising the money ourselves. We're putting together by donations and our personal and our funds from the fundraisers. So that's where we're at. You know, other clubs and things. So,
Kevin?
Yep. Hope you're muted, Tom.
Muted yourself.
With all the money that we spent on radio, and just radios and that was in the tune of radios and accessories was in the tune of $16,000. None of the manufacturers gave us a penny.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was surprising. I'm a buyer by trade, and couldn't get nothing out of them.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that. That's well.
I would have thought someone like Ray Novak at ICOM would be all over this project and wanting to help.
No, he He didn't. We talked to him.
No, muted. You've muted again, Tom. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You mute. That's it. Yeah, go on.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, I was muted. I say nobody wanted to do anything. I talked to Ray. I talked to many people. I don't think they thought we were serious.
Which they should have. When you're going to go in and buy something like 4 of a 7610 or that 101D, you think it would have got somebody's attention at either one of those places, but you're just another number out there in the end, you know.
Have you said, curious now, have you sent them a video of the bus now, or a picture of the bus now to ICOM and say, this is just to let you know, this is what we're using and this is what we've achieved?
When we had it at the Hamvention,
yeah,
the Hamvention, we told them all.
Yep.
They could come and see it. The Yesu National Sales Rep came through.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But we had to work with a dealer.
Cool. My goodness. Wow. I think that may well be though, Tom, because there's a very clear line with the manufacturers that they are distributors only, and it has to go through the dealership. And that may be that as much as they'd be willing to do something, they cannot physically retail a unit out, and it has to go to a dealer. So it may have been that prevented them.
Yeah, they can't sell direct. I know that. And, but I would have thought, because I'm a dealer for a bunch of stuff, not ham radio related. And I will go to the manufacturer and say, hey, I have this customer, they're going to spend this much. What kind of discount can we get them? And a lot of times the manufacturers I work with, they will work up a deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they can produce something, I'm sure. Yeah.
They could have easily not given, like you say, they can't sell direct, but let's say if we went through HRO, the manufacturer could have given HRO the discount, say, would you pass that discount on to the radio club, because they are buying 4 high-end radios and microphones and booms and accessories. I mean, it isn't just the radios, you know, it's a lot of other...
I completely get that. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So it's a shame.
But I guess at the end of the day, you don't really want to be beholden to anybody, do you? You know, at the moment, you're completely independent. You've done it all yourselves. You haven't got to put signs up advertising anybody. You haven't got to be loyal to any particular manufacturer. I think it must have been difficult, but I think you've made the right call, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. When we selected radios, it wasn't biased off who gave us the best price. It really boiled down to really comparing these two. And like I say, they are, for an average ham radio operator, those two are really close. It'd be really tough. But, you know, when you start dealing with some of the guys that are known top-end reviewers, and they really kind of help you steer one way or another, you know, that was the decisioning factor. And like I said, guys have both. You know, there's guys that are, you know, not just tied to Yaesu or ICOM at home. They've got both. And our biggest thing was to keep things the same. So, you know, it probably could have been easy to say, well, let's make this real quick. Let's just get 2 ICOMs and 2 Yaesus. Well, now you got twice as much work to try and learn both radios, you know, especially for somebody, for me, you know, I'm finally getting familiar with my 7300. I got to go in and tackle that Yaesu in there. So it's the redundancy is the biggest thing stressed when it comes to emergency situations, is reaction time. How quick can you get in here and do it? And you know, you say, oh, last time I was working the ICOM, now I got to use the Yaesu. But yeah, like I said, you mentioned that very well, Jonathan. You hit the nail on the head there. Is we don't have anybody. We've got some nice stuff. We're working on a good system. We're having a ton of fun. There isn't anybody that comes to the bus, even after you're soaking wet when it's 100 degrees out, you're setting it all up. There's nobody crying. They're just, hey, I'm going to get cleaned up. I'm going to get something to drink and eat, and we're going to get on the radio and start making some calls.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's the attitude of it.
So have you done what we call the Mars mod to those radios? So they're wide banded.
I don't think so. Tom, I don't think we have any mods to the radios at all. I think they're factory setups.
No, haven't let any of the smoke out of the radios yet.
That's the secret, Tom. Keep it in. Keep that smoke in there.
They work better when you let the smoke out.
No. No.
So the last question from me is, how often is the bus in service? How often is it used? Is it used on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or is it just 4 or 5 times a year? How often is it actually in operation?
It does vary, Andy. Let's go back a few weeks ago. We had it out twice in 1 week. We had it all set up Tuesday night for a city event. We were out on Tuesday night with it for a public city event. We had a club meeting Wednesday, and on Saturday we had it all over again for another public event in town. So it's like, okay, that's twice in 1 week. Yeah. At least in the summertime, guaranteed it's at least once a month, at the very least.
Right.
We've had this thing set up when it's really hot out. We've got the air conditioning. We've sat in the bus when it's been pouring rain where there's probably water running over your ankles. We've had it set up. We've done, QSO. Wisconsin has a QSO party. Each state's got a QSO party. We'll do the Minnesota one because we're just over the river. So as things come up and get on the, on the schedule, we'll go and do them. Like Hamvention, Dayton, they left on Wednesday, they come back on Sunday. There's 5 days in a row that the bus got used right there in 1 week. Over the winter might be a little less, unless something major, it does come up. You don't want to, you sure like the practice, but you don't want to overschedule it either, where it does become a job. You want to keep club participation at some level, maintain it, just to think if you had to do that every week and on weekends, you might get a few people frowning and saying, I've had enough. I'll just stay home and run the radio where the refrigerator's right there. It's stocked full of beer, got some chips.
Yeah.
So, but it will vary. I could probably honestly say if we lived down south where winter wasn't an issue, it'd probably be a lot more, because you think of it, unless you're doing, a major event, do you want to get out in the cold? I don't know. It's really hard for me to get out of bed when it's 20 below out and there's a foot of snow on the ground and you got to shovel your driveway just to go anywhere. But we still have events going. One of our next major events is with a fire department here in Alaska. We're going to be doing open house with them. So they're going to get a little hands-on. They're going to know what we got for radios in there, and they're going to be some jealous people over there, I think. They just our biggest thing is to merge with that level. It's just one of those things that we really want to let them know that they're comfortable with us. We're not just a bunch of hobbyists with ham radios, chatting away on the band. It's no, we're this is another intention of the bus is for an emergency. How can we help? What exactly we'll be doing, hard to say. We might be just doing misplaced people, forwarding to say, hey, here's a list of people that are showing up here. They're okay, they're accounted for. Things might be relaying information to hospitals in the area. Sky's the limit on emergency communications. It just really, really tough to say, but I think the use of the bus, it'll always be kind of a little this, might be some more events a little bit farther away. Right now, it's been fairly local. Dayton is an exception. But to go any place distant, like Andy, if we were to call your brother-in-law up and say, hey, we're going to be in Florida next weekend, it's going to take a few guys to go with and do it, so one of those.
Yeah, it's good to build those bridges. You're absolutely right. I'm quite interested. What internet provision have you got in the bus? Because it must be on the web, right?
What's that, Jonathan?
What internet connectivity do you have in the bus?
Good question. We currently are using a hotspot through one of our members for internet. One of the things I haven't really had a chance to talk with Tom or the other guys is, if we lose that for whatever reason, or the phone, even with 5G over here now, if it's not fast enough to do whatever, just one is looking at some kind of tripod and a satellite dish kind of thing to get, or we have a sit down conversation with Elon Musk and say, we want Starlink,
So, well, in the meantime, until you succeed in getting Starlink, hit me up, Kevin. So my day job, I work for a firm. We do cellular routers for a living, bonded multiple SIMs, really good connections with good failover redundancy and so on. We'll have a chat about it. I think we can probably give you some good advice.
Okay. Yeah, and the hotspot has worked well, I think, for the most part. We're running the log in the N3FJP, and I don't think it's been an issue. Maybe sometimes a little slower than others, but when we're running the bus, a few guys are probably doing things the old-fashioned way. They're just writing stuff on a pad of paper, and then we'll just you letting one or two guys enter at a time.
Sure.
So, but yeah, alternate internet would possibly be a nice upgrade, down the line. So,
Kevin?
Yes.
The only thing we've ever used the hotspot for actually is to look up call signs and have the DX spots working correctly on the software, or download something that we needed, or just to look up something on the internet. That's the only thing we've actually really needed. I've talked to, I think, 2 or 3 cell phone companies, and they're all, yep, we can get it for you, $30-40 a month.
Yeah. And we do have the ISS tracker, which is that run off the internet, Tom, by chance, or?
Just for updates.
Okay.
That doesn't have to update very often. So otherwise, we really don't use the internet on the bus much. It'd be handy to have one.
Yeah. So in essence, yeah, the hotspots worked out pretty good for us for what we need. So like I said, a lot of guys, as far as if we're doing field days and contacts, they're just still writing them on paper and download them later. So, but the electrical, between the generator or being able to plug in, that's our main source. That's where everything really functions there. But with a generator, then it goes to, and we're using regular power supplies for the radios. We're not doing a DC converter system at all. It's just straight, from a generator power to the 110, and then just a couple of Astron, 50 amperes or something, and powering the radios from there. So we keep it somewhat simple. I guess that would be maybe one thing that somebody'd say, well, you spent all this money, with the interior of the bus and your cabling and wiring and the radios, that why you don't have a better electrical system. Well, it's like ours is redundant. Maybe somebody say, well, it'd be more convenient just to put a DC converter on there on that generator, and then everything draws off that converter. Well, what if that thing burns down? Then all your radios are shot. If one power supply goes down for one radio, well, we've got 2 other radios that are live and going. Redundancy is part of that emergency contact, again. So it, to some people, things make sense, and sometimes they just wonder, well, yeah, there's always another way to, do it. But we're pretty happy with what's at. We've got room to grow with it and still make it fun. If you had everything you wanted done now, well, then maybe it might be a little boring if you didn't have a project to work on.
Less noise on HF.
Yeah.
What about linears, amplifiers? You've not got any amplifiers on there, so you're just using 100 watts. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Yep.
Now,
there a question, Kevin. When you went to Dayton, did you see the Dara bus there?
Maybe Tom can answer that. I wasn't there.
We were right in the e-com area with all the communications buses, and the Dara really wasn't open to anybody. We were supposed to get a private tour, but we just time just restricted it. So the Dara really wasn't open for presentation. And I don't think they have a bus. There was a trailer there. I know that. But the answer to that would be no, I guess.
Okay, well, they used to have a bus. Obviously, they must have got rid of it. Perhaps they're short of money. But
they've changed vehicles a couple times, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I remember seeing it back in 93, 95. And it was quite a sight to see, really.
Right, I remember that. There were some other vehicles there, but what happened was when we pulled in and we were setting up, another guy pulled in, and he pulled in with just an open trailer with a pneumatic mask. And one of the guys was joking with him. He put a tri-bander on it, on this pneumatic mast, and he was joking with him, and he says, you can't put that up here unless we can hook up to it. And he says, okay. He goes, sure. He ran the coax over to us, and we had the tri-bander.
Yeah, and I can go back in the slide and post some. That was one of the things in the presentation, was that their pop-up tent was right across the alley basically from them, and hooked it up and went with it. So, but looking with a bus, I've since then, you go on the internet and people have made all other sorts of conversions with vehicles. I saw one of those Mitsubishi Tundra trucks all done up, with a big tires and go anywhere, and got all the radio gear and back, and do all the remote stuff either by a generator or solar panels. So all sorts of ideas out there. You just have to be creative. And it's just the way it worked out for us. The bus, just like it called us saying, I need a new home. You didn't want to see it go to the scrap yard or the salvage yard. It's like, no, we got enough, people here. We can make this work. And it has. It's been we get a lot of compliments. I didn't want to make it seem like we're patting ourselves on the back, but people are always got something nice to say and contribute to it. It's just made a nice, you know, thing to have. One thing we don't have, concerning us, we do our monthly meetings out of one of the members' garage, and we don't have a clubhouse. So, there's a little bit of give and take with it. There's times that you probably want to say, heck with the bus. I'd rather, there's a contact I want to make at home, but I can't reach them. Boy, I'd love to go to the clubhouse and take advantage of a 100-foot tower and a Yagi up there, and I could go get them. So you're always like, maybe down the line things will change. But I think the bus is going to keep us rolling for a while. So hopefully it gave you guys some ideas if anybody's, looking at something like that. Nothing fancy in there really. I know I maybe went through the slides pretty fast, but coax, we're just using basic stuff. RG8X, 213, something similar to LMR4. We're not doing anything high tech, in there. Connections are pretty simple, keep minimum. We got a computer tower in there to, run software, but as far as, like I said, the radio, the antenna, and 100 watts. That's what we're running. Nothing fancy. No amplifiers or anything like that. That's at least now. So, yeah.
But it's right, Kevin, because you're set up for emergency conditions, aren't you? So if you have 240 going in there, or 110 in your case, going in there, running that place, and there is a emergency, you've got no power, have you? Yeah. So running an amplifier off of that bus, you'd need incredible stuff, wouldn't you, to run an amplifier anyway?
Yeah. So, and there too, an amplifier to me is kind of one way. Yeah, it gets your voice farther out, but it doesn't mean you're going to receive something just as well coming back. So
yeah, okay.
That's part of the communication. It's got to be two ways. You can't just be given directions. You got to be able to receive some. So it works out pretty good. And like I said, field days, we've got a variety of antennas, outside of the towers with the dipoles and stuff and different bands. So plenty to work with during those days. So, and I'm still learning.
With the generator running and everything turned on, all the air conditioners, either the air or the heat, we only use half of the generators, what it's capable of. And so half of the 15 kilowatts. So we have plenty of room for an amplifier if we wanted to.
That's cool. Right, well, thank you very much, Kevin, for the evening. I've really enjoyed it. I'm just going to stop the recording, make it easier for John to edit in the next few days.